And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive, Monday, February 2nd. And we don't have much going on tonight, but we do have 3 games locking at 3 different times, and that should help us out at least a little bit in trying to find some edge here tonight. I am Josh Engelman. I would love for you guys to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. And then follow me on Twitter at Josh Engelman. We had a little bit more news to wait on earlier today when I took a look at this slate. And now we only have 2 pieces of expected news to come in. And what ends up happening there, and when that news comes in, will be important. The only thing that we have left to talk about on the injury report are these 2 things. Anthony Edwards is questionable. Julius Randle is questionable. When we get that news is the only thing we're waiting on. If we're lucky, it comes in right at 7 o'clock on the dot and at least messes things up so that you guys can late swap and grab a little bit of edge today. We don't want to see this any earlier. And if it ends up that they're both in, that also just doesn't matter. That's not today's news. That's PJ Washington. So let me set the table for the rest of today. 7 o'clock start. Rockets, 6.5 point favorites in Indy, 219 total. No Kevin Durant. No Steven Adams, obviously. Pacers, same team they always are. So nothing new for the Pacers. We've got a Rockets team with no KD. Obviously a little bit different. Wolves, Grizzlies. I already mentioned Edwards and Randle. On the Grizzlies side, we started today with Jaren Jackson as a Q tag. That's gone. He's probable now. So still no Morant, no Conchar, no Santi Aldama. I guess no Scottie Pippen, Zach Edey, Brandon Clark as well. And then finally, for the late game, 10 o'clock start, 2.5 hours after Memphis and Minnesota. Sixers, 2.5 point dogs in LA. For the Clippers, Paul George not going to make it for this one or for the next couple games as he is suspended. Joel Embiid is probable. Everybody else that's typically available for the Sixers is available. And then on the Clippers side, once again, James Harden out for personal reasons. We got a hell of a slate on our hands, folks. So make sure you're hitting the like button right now. Let's talk about it, shall we? At the top end of ownership, we have 3 guys projected for about 50% ownership. The first of which is Alperen Şengün, 9,200, power forward center eligible in a matchup against the Pacers. He's 50% owned, 50% optimal. Look, I have talked a lot about Şengün over the past few months. I've liked him pretty consistently every night in DFS, especially when he has the power forward eligibility. I don't know how you would want to dodge this. Like, surely, you obviously can. It's a coin flip that he booms, a coin flip that he's optimal. But we've targeted bigs against the Pacers all year. I don't see any reason we wouldn't want to do that today. And there's no Kevin Durant. So Alperen Şengün gets more touches, more usage, more whatever. It all opens up more for Şengün, and it's opening up for him in a matchup that's awesome. So I have absolutely no issue with the ownership for Alperen Şengün. Not surprised to see it. We can compare him to some other pay-ups as we work our way through, but just on the surface, I don't have a negative thing to say about him. He checks every box today. The other 2 guys that are getting 50% ownership, one of which a teammate, Reed Sheppard, 4,900, point guard, shooting guard eligible. We've got him in for 27 minutes. I have very little issue getting to Reed Sheppard today. We don't have him starting. Realistically, he could. We'll know this before the game starts. But we are losing a lot of offense from not having Kevin Durant out there for Houston. That's the one thing Reed Sheppard can bring to the table here. Now, maybe it doesn't go well. but they don't have a lot of alternatives behind him that are as talented offensively as Reed Shepherd is. And at a sub 5K price tag on a day like today, just this 3-game slate, that is not a salary I want to avoid. So I think he looks fine. John Collins certainly makes me a little nervous. Now, having no James Harden is, I guess, a benefit in that it frees up usage, touches, time. I mean, realistically, James Harden and John Collins guard the same people, but that's neither here nor there. Power forward center eligibility on John Collins, projected for 30 minutes, just shy of a fantasy point per minute guy. Obviously, a 10 o'clock start. So we're showing pretty, like a decent chunk of negative leverage to John Collins. I kind of agree with that. Not a guy that I would want to have a lot of, but still the third highest optimal rate. He's not a guy that I just wouldn't have. I like the idea of having John Collins in mass to start and then, late swapping some of that at before 7:30 after we get the tiniest of information from the first game, and then very clearly moving things around if possible in the late game. Because like someone like Naz Reid is $1,000 more expensive. That could become something different at that point. After we get to those three guys, Şengün, Shepherd, Collins, there's not really like a clear line in the sand anywhere. We work our way down from 35% ownership, and it's a pretty clean step straight down. We're not creating any real gaps. It becomes pretty flat there. So at that point, I just want to look more at the salary structure. So let me just filter out anybody less than 10 minutes for right now. Embiid is your most expensive option at 9,700. Center only, 30% owned. Just looks great. Tyrese Maxey, 9,400. Gonna play 38 to 42 minutes tonight. 17% owned. We've got Ant at 9,300, about 30% owned. That Q tag's certainly helping. We've talked about Şengün being the chalk. Kawhi is sitting here at 20%-ish owned. And then we take this drop down to what I think might be one of the more interesting GPP plays today. That's power forward center eligible Pascal Siakam. And really, I just look at him. Now, clearly not the best per minute dude in the world. Can play an extra minute or two for sure. Not the best boom rate in the world, that's for sure. Just 21%. But, realistically, Houston, not as good of a team as they usually are. I think no matter what we think of Kevin Durant defensively now as an older gentleman, he's still better than like the guards that have to pick up some of the playing time for him. We know that we don't have Steven Adams. So I think this matchup is like slightly better than it seems on paper. And then realistically, it's a 3-game slate. And if Pascal Siakam's going to be a 6.5% owned dude, yeah, do I want that boom rate to be a little bit higher than 21%? I do. But I do feel like he's getting slept on just a little bit. Is he really 1/3 the ownership of Julius Randle here? Like that feels... I don't think those guys are all that different if we're just talking about what today is. So I've got my eye on Siakam as the guy to get different with in the largest field contests. It's very clear that Alperen Şengün looks awesome. But what that ends up meaning for what else I could pay up for, that will be more of a talking point. From what we see right now, Reed Shepherd is starting for the injured Kevin Durant. We did not have that in, so we will get an update at some point in time shortly. Or maybe not shortly, but at least before lock starts for you guys. So that's going to make Reed Shepherd look a little bit better. I don't know how much we're going to bump him up. But even if he gets another minute, maybe 2 minutes, He's already 50% owned at 27 minutes and coming off the bench. So my expectation is that in our next update, Reed Shepherd will be the highest owned and highest optimal play of the day. I think he'll catch Şengün in optimal at least. But I can see, like, there's a conversation to be had of what can you realistically get to at the top? How many pay-ups are there for you that you can roster? So let's see what the optimal lineup looks like at Stokastic right now. And that reads as Dante DiVincenzo, Reed Shepherd, Kobe Sanders, John Collins, Naz Reid, Tari Eason, Alperen Şengün, Amen Thompson. So 4 Rockets. But what I think is interesting, $9,200 Şengün, no other payups until we get to the $8,200 Amen Thompson. That's a 260.8 projection, 298 ownership. What happens if we want 2 payups? Şengün's going to be one of them in this case because he is the best point per dollar option. But like Anthony Edwards and Amen Thompson are the same point per dollar plays. And realistically, Joel Embiid is not too far off as the same point per dollar play. So I just want to see, how much do we give back in projection to have Şengün and Embiid? 260.4 is the optimal lineup around those two. So we basically didn't move in projection down by 0.4. We actually went up in ownership by about 11%. So given that we didn't move all that much, now I think I want to see. Now I know he's not a great value. This isn't going to look amazing. How much do we give up to have Pascal Siakam? 255.5. So by locking in, and let me take Şengün out because maybe that we're a little less optimal. No, we are not. He's in there one way or the other. 255.5 if you want to have Pascal Siakam. Drops us by 5.3 fantasy points. We did drop our ownership by 16%. It is tough to get to Siakam efficiently with where we're set up now. We do sneak into the top sim ROI stuff. There's another pivot to be had here to cut some ownership that I think would make it pretty easy. But let's talk through some of this slate in terms of pivots, because I think that's the most interesting way to look at a 3-game slate. Everybody's on the table on a slate this size. Like, if you play 16 minutes today, you can be in a winning lineup depending on how that 16 minutes goes, because we only have 3 games. So I like finding those guys that are slipping through the cracks. Maybe Siakam's not that guy because he's slightly too cost uncertain or inefficient, I guess is the right word. So then let's find the other guys in the zones where we have a group of dudes and we've got a random low-owned guy. Like Jock Landale, for example, 6% owned today. He's a fantasy point per minute dude, and we have him in for 28 minutes. Do I think Jock Landale goes crazy today? No. But if Ivica Zubac is going to play 2 more minutes and be 25% owned at a price tag $600 more expensive, and Rudy Gobert at 6,800 is going to be on that same corner with hugely positive leverage. Maybe it's not that I like Jock Landale, but I definitely, my eye immediately goes to either Rudy Gobert or Landale in place of someone like Zoo. Same story for Triple J. Is Triple J really all that different than Rudy Gobert today? Not based on our optimal rate, he's not. We've got Triple J 17% optimal. Rudy Gobert's 15. But these guys are double Jaren Jackson Jr.'s double the ownership. Now, Zoo is a bit more optimal, so that's on a bit of a different tier, but as I see it, I agree with our leverage right now. Rudy Gobert just looks underowned in a pack of centers. And there are going to be things like this that pop up at the bottom as well, especially around the guys that have maybe not the best point per minute rates. So someone like Kelly Oubre today, 5,700, small forward, power forward eligible, a pretty bad per minute guy, all things considered. We've got him in for 0.73 today. He's 7% owned. Now the boom does not support it, 13.5%. But if I'm looking at this right now, like, do I really feel like Cedric Coward should be 4 times as owned as Kelly Oubre? Not really. I don't think Cedric Coward has the same right tail in terms of playing time. It would really shock me for him to play like 31 minutes. Whereas I think Kelly Oubre could play 38 and it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. But Cedric Coward being a fantasy point per minute guy does carry a lot of weight here. But we can work our way down into some really bleak areas if you want to try to save more salary to be able to unlock more at the top. So let's think about who the best point per dollar plays are right now. It's Reed Shepherd at 4,900, about 5.5x. It's Ty Jerome at 4K, point guard, shooting guard eligible, 5.3x, same as Şengün, which is crazy at 9,200. John Collins, Kobe Sanders right now, 3,800, small forward, 35% owned. He's a 0.69 fantasy point per minute dude. Like right away, that scares the hell out of me. Given his point per dollar or given his point per minute rates, what else is around Kobe Sanders that isn't getting as much love? Because I'm guessing it's a lot. I mean, even just looking at someone like Dominic Barlow, who's kind of the same guy that just plays less in general, is sitting there at a third of the ownership. Now, I don't like that, to be clear. But do you want to roll the dice on TJ McConnell today in 17 minutes at half the ownership of someone like Kobe Sanders? I don't know. KCP seems like a tough sell. So many of these guys are just so poor per minute. You can see the whole list here. Kobe Sanders, 0.7. Barlow, 0.7. Furphy, 0.7. I mean, you feel lucky when you get KCP to 0.75. Mike Conley, 0.7. Bogdanovich in 11 minutes at 0.8. Even somebody that gets real playing time, somebody like Nick Batum in 22 minutes. 0.64 fantasy points per minute. I'm nervous about the Kobe Sanders ownership. Not the type of guy that like really participates out there. Definitely the type of guy that I don't mind having the ownership on and then trying to swap it later on. I think there's some utility there, especially if you've got him in a forward spot. I don't think it'd be all that crazy. If you have a lineup, you need to be more unique to turn him into like Nick Batum. You're going to hate every bit of it, but it's there. It's the mid tier where I think all of the weirdness is going to happen. The low ownership on Oubre, the low ownership on Aaron Nesmith, Jarris Walker playing mid to high 20s in minutes at low ownership. There are some spots on a 3-game slate of guys getting mid 20s minutes that aren't getting the sort of love that I would expect. Now, all of this could be totally irrelevant by the time we get to an hour from now, if we get Julius Randle and or Ant out. Because then we're going to be able to create some value in Minnesota that we don't have now. And that's where the utility comes in. When we get that news is everything. Because if it happens at 6:58, we're in a really great spot because people are going to have to late swap. And you guys, if you have the late swap tool at Stokastic.com, will be in the best possible spot to do so. So prepare yourselves for that. Be aware of what you want to get to if one or both of those Wolves guys are out. If they're both out, it should be pretty obvious you're going to get a shit ton of Minnesota. All their random backup dudes, like Gobert will still look good to me, but obviously that's like slightly different. Naz Reid obviously will look massively different. And then we're going to start getting to your Bones Highland types in a way that will completely change how you roster guys in the Philly game. Stuff like that will make someone like Tyrese Maxey look way different, depending on when we get that news. So let's run a sim. We've got about 9 minutes to go until we turn this one over to live before lock. So I'm going to let it rip. Oh, I let it rip too fast. Pause. Not the first time I've let one rip too quickly. Usually it ends up with a mess in my pants. This time it just ends up with me not wanting to run this just yet. We got a projections update sometime in the last minute. So I'm going to let this ownership update hit as well. And then we'll go ahead and run this bad boy. Don't forget, if you want to sign up at Stokastic, there is a link in the description of this video. You can sign up through one of our partners and you can get a month of our sims for free. No cost whatsoever. Follow those instructions. If you want a month of the NBA packages, sign up through one of those partners and you can get that. Maybe you sign up through more than one partner. You will then get more than 1 month for free. You won't pay us a dime. So if you want to know what the sims are like, all of the tools that we're adding behind the scenes that are coming soon, single lineup sim, which I showed off earlier, the contest generator, which I'm about to show off, late swap, which is going to be very prevalent for you guys either today or every other day. You guys should sign up by clicking the link in the description. Let's see if we've got this ownership yet. We do indeed. Let's see what we've got here. Let's generate our pool for this lovely 3-gamer. I'm anxious to see where the big leverage options are. I'm going to take the top 150 lineups for this pool. I'm going to put it on 2 uniques just to get a little bit of difference. It won't be a ton, but it'll separate a bit at the end. And we'll see where the stands are so far prior to finding out whether or not these Minnesota dudes are going to be playing. For right now, I kind of feel like they're in, but no clue. Not in a position to guess. All right, let's go. 2 uniques, top 150. Biggest stand. Naz Reid. Not surprised to see that either, given where we're at with those Q tags. But 2x Naz Reid, 2x Kawhi, which I absolutely love. It's the last game. If that doesn't work out well for you, you can get back off of it and move stuff around if you need to. Pretty big stand on Ant as well. I don't hate that, given his ownership and given some of the other ownership we've seen. TJ McConnell. Power forward Vince Williams coming in as a guy we're 2xing. Yes, power forward Vince Williams, a position he does not play. Ty Jerome, Kobe Sanders. I'll admit, I don't love the Kobe Sanders one, but we did end up over the field a bit. Let's see who we're fading if we just take those top 150 lineups. It's Tyrese Maxey. Barely got any. Don't like that at all. Would greatly prefer to bump him up and probably will. John Collins, a little bit under. Wouldn't mind having a bit more heading into lock, but he is a guy I'm fine being lighter on. Amen Thompson, don't have as much. Don't hate that. And then KCP, the only other one where we got 1 share out of the 150 lineups. So as I see this, what I would be doing here just personally, I would want a little bit more of Tyrese Maxey. So I would pull him up in the player management section. Let's give him a 10% ROI boost. That takes us up to about 13% Maxey. At the very least, I want to be with the field in this spot. So I'm going to bump that up to 15, which gives us about 20% of Maxey. I feel much better there. Similarly, I am going to knock back my Kobe Sanders. If I just do a -10, this should pretty well get me right around the field. Yeah, just shy of it, 27%. Love where I'm at right there. So now how has that changed my current setup? I'm fine with the Naz Reid, fine with the TJ, fine with Vince, fine with Kawhi, fine with Ty Jerome. All of that looks really good to me. from a fade perspective, I don't feel great being that far under on a Men Thompson. I'm going to try to walk that back a little bit. Just a 5% ROI boost. 5% makes me neutral. I'll take that all day. Now I don't have any real extreme stands from a fade perspective. The stands that I take are more extreme on the guys I have. And that's typically how I would want to do it. I don't want to get too far away from the field on guys that are really good plays, but I will take some stands on guys that the field might not be on as much. And I think that's what this slate is looking like a little bit more. And what you can see where that is very clearly if you look at the leverage column and the salary column. This is where our sims and our projections are finding the value. $4,100 TJ McConnell, $4,200 Vince Williams, $4K Ty Jerome, $4,100 Jalen Wells. You see where these are four of the guys that we're taking a stand on are in the 4Ks. Four of these guys are between 4K and 4,200. That's where we're getting the positive leverage. That's where it appears we're finding a little bit of gap in leverage and where we want to be. This low 4K range seems at least a little bit underrepresented. And as you can see, that's not happening because we're getting away from Reed Shepherd. $4,900 Reed Shepherd is still in 80% of our stuff. So it's not just having Reed Shepherd, it's finding more value in the bottom of the 4Ks. That seems like the path that gets us where we want to be. The one thing I want to see is where are we paying up and do we need to make any changes? We're right with the field on Embiid. We're right with the field on Maxey. Little bit of a stand on Ant. Little bit of a stand on Kawhi. We're still getting our 50% of Şengün. This all looks really nice to me. But I would look at this and think, I got to get at least a little bit more of my boy Pascal Siakam. So it would be very easy. I'd pull up Pascal Siakam. I'm going to give him a 10% ROI boost. I'm not confident this helps him out a ton, but we should get at least a little bit more. Yeah, we got up to 5%. I'll give him one more 5% bump. Gets me to 10. That gets me the Siakam that I want. But as you can see, we're not taking any crazy stands at the top. A little bit over the field on Kawhi, but let me hold hands with the field on the best dudes. Let me take my stands down in the 4K range. I think that gets a little bit easier. That's what we're looking at today. It all comes down to the news that you guys will likely be getting sometime in the next hour. Whether or not that comes early or not will be important. But lucky for you guys, it's going to be delivered by Greg Ehrenberg and Eric Lindquist on Live Before Lock. They are going to be here to take you all the way from 6 to 7 and get you guys ready on this sort of uneventfully dumb 3-game slate that we've been handed today. Don't know why the NBA did this. We're back with a vengeance tomorrow for sure. But this is kind of an ugly slate. But that doesn't mean it's bad for DFS. If people are paying attention less, maybe we'll get blessed with this Minnesota news at a time where we could really take advantage of it and grab that edge that we're looking for. Because if you're using the Sims right now, you're going to see lower Sim ROI numbers than you probably have seen over the past week or so. That's because of the slate size. So in order to get that back somehow, we need something stupid to happen. And hopefully that'll happen with Minnesota ruling these guys out together at 7:01. That's the dream scenario. But for now, I'm going to turn this one over to the Live Before Lock crew. Greg Ehrenberg, Eric Lindquist. You guys excited for this Monday slate?
Yeah. So like you, hoping that we get some chaos, some people ruled out. Before you go though, Josh, do you have official guesses on who's going to be in or out?
I am going with the assumption right now that they're both going to play, and it's going to be a real turd in the punch bowl.
Okay. All right. So you're expecting Edwards and Randall both to be in?
Yeah, that just feels... I feel like I'm going to get let down, and that's what's going to happen. I'm obviously rooting for Team Chaos, where it's both of them and then somebody else out of nowhere. That's the dream scenario. Are you assuming one of two?
I don't know. I'll have to talk it through with Eric. I've been terrible at guessing injuries as of late. Eric beat me the last time we went head to head. It was Jalen Brunson. I said that I thought he was the late day downgrade with the illness. I thought he was going to sit. Eric thought he was going to play because it's something about going through customs, which Eric realized afterwards was a dumb thing to say, but he ended up being right.
It was a joke. We can't make jokes anymore on this show. We have to. Okay,
you meant it 100% serious.
I did not. I laughed as I said it.
But you texted me and told me you meant it.
Oh my God. I hate both of you so much. This is really lovely.
Well, Josh,
this is great.
Have a good night. Have a good night.
Night, y'all.
We won't have to team up on Eric. I'll just make fun of him by myself for the next hour or so. So I do want to know from you though, Eric, same thing that I just asked Josh. We do have obviously the big news on the slate. Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, both questionable. This is your hometown team, your favorite squad in the entire NBA. So maybe you have a little bit better of insight into this than everybody else. I want to know, what is your lean on Edwards, Randle being in or out between the two of them?
I mean, it feels as though it's a spot where with the NBA trade deadline coming up and with the All-Star break coming up and everything else, it feels like a spot where if you were going to sit somebody like Anthony Edwards, if he's fine to play, he's a cyborg. There's been times this year earlier where he was going to play and, you know, like he would have played 99% of the time. And then they just say, oh, injury maintenance, or, oh, you know, we don't really need to push it. I do think this is probably like 55-45 Ant plays. And I'll say it's like 55-45 Randle sits. There's been a lot of news as far as like what's going on. Obviously, I'm not making any kind of a major position on it, but it would make sense if you're having actual discussions with Milwaukee. Julius Randle needs to be a part of that. There's no planet where Julius Randle and or Naz Reid are not getting packaged along with a bajillion picks and probably another team to make all the money work if you want to go out and get a Giannis Antetokounmpo. Gobert, nobody wants him. He's fine for what we're doing. Gobert, I find it very unlikely to get moved in any kind of capacity, but I'll say a slight downgrade from 50-50 on Randle, slight upgrade on 50-50 for Ant.
Okay. Are you excited about the prospects of your team potentially landing Giannis?
Yeah, I am. I will say Julius Randle's worked out way better than I would expect, and Naz Reid's my boy, but if you want to try to win with Ant over the course of the next 5-6 years before, you know, he would inevitably be pissed off if we didn't make big swings, you got to go big in the Western Conference. Like, you don't have a choice. Oklahoma City is stacked, not just this year, but for the next 5-10 years to come. And so with Jokic, with OKC, like, you've got to make some big swings. So I would be excited about the prospect of it. I don't know if we would have enough around it if we end up sending McDaniels along with it. And it sounds like that's the thing that they're asking for, is McDaniels along with Randle and Naz. Like, that just seems impossible.
You don't know. Did he have to go through customs? They have to go through customs. Somebody else saying also Manny Fresh. They voted Ant as an all-star reserve. Disrespect game. Not necessarily. I mean, you look at the guys who are starting, like Steph. He's Steph. He's very popular. He's also had an outstanding season. Then you also got Luka and SGA. There's a case for him to start, but I don't look at it as some like massive snub that he isn't starting. It's just there's really good backcourt options. If he was in the East, it would be a snub if he wasn't starting, but it's just the backcourt's loaded in the West.
Yeah, I mean, Pascal Siakam is an Eastern Conference reserve. So, like, yeah, no, if you were in the East, there's some downgrades across the board there. For the West, it's stacked. It's hard to imagine that you're going to ever beat Steph in terms of popularity. And it's really hard to imagine that you would ever beat SGA on a team that just doesn't lose a lot of basketball games. So I love my guy Ant, but it makes sense. I'm not going to defend him as a starter there. And I doubt he probably takes some kind of ownership of it, but he finds everything to be mad about and go out and use it as fuel. So that's just kind of the way that he's built.
Here's the one thing that I thought maybe a little disrespectful. Pretty clearly, the players do not like Luka for one reason or another. I don't know if you looked at the voting. The NBA players voted Luka 6th amongst guards in the West. So NBA players, not massive fans of Luka. So if there's any, I thought if anything, if there was any player who would look at the voting and feel disrespected, Luka being like, oh, really? 6th? Luka's higher in the MVP odds than he was in the Western Conference player vote order.
Yeah, it makes sense, though, again, because I'm assuming Steph probably got more love from his constituents. Steph is still very, very good later into his career, but yeah, Luka complains a lot. Doesn't completely shock me.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who else was ahead of him.
Can't be many people. LeBron probably, just as a...
Well, no, because LeBron not a guard.
Luka reserve. Gotcha. Guard.
Yeah, I'm saying Luka was 6th amongst guards in the West in the player
That's
vote.
insane. That's actually insane.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. So, like, off the top of my head, Steph, SGA, Ant were ahead of him. I can't remember who the other 2 were, but all right.
Neither have Jamal Murray.
Jamal
Murray, probably. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Who'd you say?
Jamal Murray, probably, amongst other people. Like, not my opinion, but obviously could be other people's opinion or his.
Yeah, I'll try to find the voting again at some point. I saw it online earlier. Yeah. Brian Stubbs saying Chris Dunn. It was not Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn was not one of the players who was voted ahead of Luka for the All-Star game. But I do want to know this from you, Eric, because in all likelihood, because of when the game starts, we are probably going to be getting Ant and Randall news prior to 7 p.m. Eastern time. But in the event that we do not, it's only a 3-game slate. How would you handle this if we do not have an update on Randall or Ant prior to the 7 p.m. game locking?
Yeah, you're going to want to make sure you've got a couple of plans in place. We just ironic, it's popping up here as we're talking about game time decision. Naz Reid, I think, would be your surefire starter there. I think Mike Conley probably starts in the event that Ant isn't there. I'm not in love with either of them by any means, but Bones Highland off the bench, this has just routinely been something where if he's not going to pop in projections, I think I got him at 8%. And he was in like 70% of my lineups. Julius Randle available to play. There we go. Again, this is why I kept this not at 80%. I had no confidence. It was like, I'll slight downgrade him from 50-50. I could not make a stand on that by any means, but looks like Ant is the guy that we'll be thinking more about. So once again, Bones Highland, still the person that I want to have on the back burner, because if that comes out after lock, we've just seen him take on a much larger workload. Ant has sung Bones Highland's praises all season long, which is just an insane thing for Bones Highland. But what a great career run out for him to land in the one spot where he could be crazy and eccentric and have another crazy eccentric star actually kind of be there to say that, you know, oh, I see a lot of me in him. There's just a lot of good stuff there. He shot the 3 pretty well overall this season, so much improved. Probably a good thing to get out of LA for him and get into a situation in Minnesota where he can just fundamentally work on his game, be around another guy who, you know, an Ant who just loves basketball. So I like Bones Highland. For our purposes, he's a great fantasy producer, and off the bench, more minutes for him. I've routinely just found ways on any slate where Ant was in doubt to get to a ton of Bones Highland.
All right. Oh, by the way, it was so Luka was actually 5th amongst guards. I thought it was 6th. It was 5th. Durant was the other one, which is a ridiculous one. But the players, I guess, like Durant, kind of more part of the cool club than Luka is, like
for
culturally.
Sure.
So
for sure.
they did vote for Durant over Luka amongst guards.
Yeah.
So one thing that I do want to point out in relation to this doesn't necessarily mean that he is going to sit. But I do think that now, if we're kind of weighting the odds, I'd say Ant a little bit more likely to sit than play, just because we have this scenario that you and I talk about a decent amount. You got 2 players with the exact same injury status, not the same injury, but the same status from the same team. You get an update on one of them, and the other one you don't get an update on at the same time. Not always the case, but more frequently than not, it does mean the guy who don't get the update on ends up sitting when the other guy's already ruled in. We have seen the Timberwolves pretty apt to sit Ant more often than not this season, certainly compared to other seasons. So not a super strong lean, but like before where you're going 45, 55, I'd say like 60% Ant sits to 40% he plays.
I think that's perfect. Maybe even like 58-42, because once again, he is Wolverine as a basketball player. The guy self-generates. He just finds way of playing through Q tags and nonstop debauchery ridiculousness. So shout out Ant for being a real one. Absolutely my favorite player in the NBA because he plays for my team. But no question that you have to kind of look at it as like more likely to sit now than not.
Are you ready for a joke for Miami Mike?
Sure. Always fun. What diatribe am I getting today?
Well, Miami Mike met a beautiful Creole woman from the Bayou. She was a fortune teller. She read his palm and asked for $10. Then she read his mind and asked for $100. What was Miami Mike looking for?
Well, don't stop the story there. The next stuff is the fun stuff. We gotta hear what occurred after.
What do you mean?
Go Tigers.
He got his sandwich that was on his mind.
I'll go easy on that cigar, boy.
So shout out to Miami Mike as always. Thank you very much for supporting the show. And for everybody else who wants to support us, here's the easiest way to do it. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, download the Tails app. You can follow my bets, Eric's bets, and everybody else's over there. And if you're really enjoying the experience, leave us a 5-star rating and a little nice review with it perhaps as well. So those are all things you could do. That is not going to take a single dollar out of your pocket, but it does help support our free content. So all those things very, very much appreciated. And yeah, no other super chats at the moment. So let's go ahead and start to look, Eric, at some of the highest projected players as far as ownership goes on FanDuel and DraftKings and get a reaction as far as what we think is good chalk, bad chalk, or somewhere in between. We'll start with DraftKings. We'll move over to FanDuel. Here's the chalk on DK. Reed Shepherd, 70% owned. Şengün, 52% owned. John Collins, 47.5% owned. And that's it for players who are, oh, but there we go. Ant's in. So we actually did kind of get the updates at the same time. So, all right, that's kind of, it's a bummer for value purposes, but it is going to be at least convenient for late swap purposes. But both Ant and Julius Randle available to play. So nothing else crazy on the injury report for today. So with that in mind, this ownership probably is going to deviate a ton over the course of the reminder of the show here. But also, what was the point of saying Ant's a game time decision and ruling him in 2 minutes later?
I don't know, but this Ryan H person just pissed me off. It's like, did you not hear the part where I'd be just fine with getting Giannis? Like, no shit, I want Giannis. I'm just saying, if you have McDaniels, Randle, and Nas, that is a lot of pieces that you then have to create something else to replace those minutes. And guess what? Sorry, I'm not super excited about the idea of Berenger or Johnny Juzang or Leonard Miller eating up some minutes, dusting off 5 minutes a day of Joe Ingles, God forbid. Like, these are not the things that I want in my life. Like, that, I just don't want them, but I would take them if it meant Giannis.
Yeah, I mean, nothing doesn't, I mean, unless you're just like kind of getting Luka for very minimal, almost everything is some sort of opportunity cost. I'd agree. Fair trade-off. Fair trade-off.
Do it. You got to try to make massive swings. Dude, it's a 3-game slate. We can rant as much as we want. Plus, we got Ant in. So now we don't have to think about that whatsoever. We get to play the slate somewhat straight up. But I look at what's coming up here as far as the Clippers and the rotation coming off of a game that they played yesterday. Now we're playing today, and that always creates an opportunity to potentially have a different line of thinking, which I enjoy.
So here's what we've got. Once again, 3 really pop. Kind of interesting that for a slate of 3 games, we only have 3 guys that are uber popular, but they are Reed Shepherd, Alperen Şengün, John Collins. Between the 3 of them, how would you rank the chalk? Who's the best chalk? Like a fuck, marry, kill of chalk. Şengün, Reed Shepherd, John Collins as chalk options. Fuck, marry, kill, Eric. What direction you go with?
All right. I'm going to probably fuck Alperen Şengün because he's a big, sexy beast, and we got to enjoy that. We're along for the ride with Alperen Şengün. He is just fantastic. And I want to shout out Rinpack one more time. I can always remember before the season started, before preseason started, I remember Rinpack planting his flag saying, this is Nikola Jokic. What?
That was not a sexy time reference. Flag planting.
No, It could be. I don't know. But he's still got positive leverage at like 51% ownership. That always titillates me a little bit. So I absolutely like. I want to fuck Alperen Şengün. I'm going to marry Reed Shepherd. I feel like marrying Reed Shepherd makes a ton of sense on this slate. Point guard, shooting guard, 4,900. He is the safe option now that he is in the starting unit here. They're going to create some extra offense for him. It's going to be very fascinating to watch Reed Shepherd in like a starting role here for this team, just because, we just haven't seen it a ton. And considering he's a good fantasy producer, fantasy point per minute guy, considering he can do a number of other things, specifically, the assist rate isn't crazy by any means. It's actually a lot worse than I was expecting coming into this season, but he can do enough other things that I think that's a pretty safe option. Plus we know he's going to chuck, and he's the best piece of value we have on the slate. I think John Collins, just because he's eternally a disappointment in life, I think that he has to be the one you kill. John Collins has power forward eligibility. He's not some spend up here where you don't have Kevin Durant for Alperen Şengün, or some piece of value where you don't have, where you don't have a Kevin Durant, some piece of value where you don't, have Kevin Durant with Reed Shepherd. But I look at John Collins as just this guy who's fine. He'll probably show up in a few lineups for me. I'm playing, some of the 20 max stuff today and keeping it pretty light on a 3-gamer, but I'm so unexcited about John Collins at chalk ever on any slate from now until the end of time.
So for my F, marry, kill here as well, we're killing John Collins to start.
Yeah, he's dead.
As far as those guys go, I have a decent chunk of him, but currently just a little bit underweight to field. Nothing crazy, but a little bit. I view Şengün as the best pay up option on this slate. Gonna marry him. I just think that's the safe pay up option today. And then we're effing little Reed Shepherd here. He is the overall best value play on the slate, but at the same time too, I don't know how you feel about this. I've got him in 90% of lineups right now. Yep. A ton of Reed Shepherd. And it is scary to me. You could see where this goes wrong. You haven't protected yourself properly. And it's like, oh my God, what have I done the next day?
Well, this is where I want to talk about tournaments, because what happens with lineups where Reed Shepherd isn't involved? Does that become Josh Okogie, who is not exciting in any way, shape, or form from a fantasy point per minute rate? Is that somebody at a different position like a Jae'Sean Tate or a Dorian Finney-Smith? Or is it just simply he doesn't play very well, and you 1-for-1 swap in a much, much, much cheaper but veteran Aaron Holiday? Because Aaron Holiday's the guy I keep thinking about on this slate. It's in this first game. Nobody's looking at Aaron Holiday at 3K. He, played a little bit in a couple of these games, like 8 minutes by any means. But I went back to the 11th just because there's that glaring 28-minute opportunity out there for him there. I mean, it's so dicey. It's so hard to kind of predict what's going to happen. But there are games where, hey, if you need to bring him out there for 12 minutes, we're projecting him for minutes, but he can play himself into a closing lineup just by some of the other intangible things that he does. And at a flat 3K, that's at least interesting to me. I doubt I'd want to play lineups with him and Reed Shepherd, because it's basically my hedge of saying Reed Shepherd just played like garbage, wasn't making shots, not as good of a defender as Aaron Holiday is going to be long-term. But I think Aaron Holiday is the interesting, if you're going to play 90% of him, which I currently have 80%. So I'm kind of in that same boat with you. Part of me wants to force in a little bit of Aaron Holiday just because of what that does for leverage. It is all insane leverage against Reed Shepherd in that circumstance.
So I have a little bit of a different, it's like the same vein, but a little bit of a different way to go. So one thing that I think we could potentially see happen in the event that Reed Shepherd fails, maybe the Rockets just play really gigantic lineups, which we see them do on occasion. And then all of a sudden you start to see Jabari Smith, who already projects, decently for us. We've got Jabari Smith in for what is he at? 30, just under 34 minutes and 30.5 fantasy points. I'm a little bit overweight to the field on him right now, Eric, only 15% owned. So of the core guys for the Rockets, he is by far the lowest owned of all of them. Well, what happens if he plays 35 minutes? And that comes at the expense of Reed Shepherd, who plays 26 or something like that if Reed Shepard struggles. So I think that Jabari Smith, if the Rockets lean even more into their big lineups, that to me is somebody who I like for not like crazy low ownership, but you're getting 15% ownership on a guy who has a good matchup. We already know is for sure a big part of the rotation.
Didn't Holiday used to play for the Pacers? That is correct. Aaron Holiday did play for the Pacers. I like your thinking. Again, I'm going to play some Jabari Smith. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not looking at this as a, I'm simply looking at in lineups I don't have Reed Shepard. Is there a path where I could see myself rostering a flat 3K Aaron Holiday? I think now with Minnesota kind of cleared up for us, we are going to have uncomfortable value, like very uncomfortable value. Outside of Shepard, nobody is producing like better than 5x, if you want to look at it that way. That's above 5K or below 5K, excuse me. It's just such a difficult slate for that. The Okogie one would be interesting on other slates. I'm not going to do that. I think Jayshawn Tate, there's a world where maybe we see him extended, as you said, maybe in some bigger lineups, but I'm looking at just like, if we get Super Saiyan ceilings from Şengün, Kawhi, Pascal Siakam, and like there are so many ways, Embiid obviously who's playing massive minutes. I think there's a path for me maybe sneaking in like 5%, like one or two lineups of Aaron Holiday and just making sure I don't have Reed Shepard in those. But yeah, it's at least a talking point for me. And Jabari Smith, 15% ownership. I think that's about appropriate. I think you think it's about appropriate. We can give them a little bit of a boost. And hey, maybe those are the ones that we don't have Reed Shepard in, and they do go to that massive lineup. And Okogie just closes over Shepard, which would not surprise me at all either.
All right, let's go ahead and look at the FanDuel top ownership as well. And then also at announcement for you guys while it is that I sort this out here. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a post-lock show. Bring it back. So here's what is going to happen. We're going to be doing a post-lock show, and we're going to be able to mix it up a little bit too. We've got our new prop tool over on Stokastic, and there's also more betting tools that are going to be added to the mix in the coming weeks as well. So post-lock show, I'll be hanging out with you guys, and what we'll do is, as per usual, anytime any kind of late news breaks, we'll go over projection updates as they come. And then in addition to that as well, while we're waiting for any news to come out, we'll be able to do stuff like look at the prop tool, see what kind of bets pop up that project well. And then we'll also be able to do stuff, like edit some of the projections. That's something new that's coming to the prop tool. I don't know if I was allowed to say it, so I kind of thought about it for a second, but whatever. It's going to be live in the tool in the next day or so anyway. So we'll also be able to do things like edit projections in the prop tool. So if there's somebody who's questionable that we think might sit, we could zero out their minutes and kind of reallocate them and see what else projects well. So tomorrow, post-lock show. It'll be right here. You won't have to go anywhere either. It's just going to be on the YouTube platform. People who occasionally ask us about Playback no longer exists as a company. That was why that show ended. So it'll just be right here, like right after Live Before Lock ends, the same way that like Josh just swapped into Eric and I'll be swapping and, hanging out with you guys after lock. So right here, that'll be something that we have on the schedule for tomorrow and Wednesday. As long as you guys are watching and liking it, then we'll keep it going. FanDuel ownership now, Eric. Here's what we've got. Some similar names. Reed Shepard, also 73% owned over on FanDuel. Chris Dunn, 53% owned. Tari Eason, 52% owned. Şengün, 50% owned. Then you got 46% ownership to Kawhi Leonard, 46% ownership to Amen Thompson. The chalk is way more condensed over on FanDuel, Eric. So I don't think we could do the F, marry, kill game on the same way on the FanDuel side of things because there's just too many guys to choose from. But I do want to know from you, who is your favorite piece of chalk on FanDuel of all these guys who are 46+% owned, and who's your least favorite piece of chalk?
Favorite piece of chalk is still going to be Reed Shepard. So that's kind of a shitty situation there. I guess the different thing is I do like Chris Dunn a lot over on FanDuel for what it's worth. You get the bump for stocks. That's kind of Chris Dunn's forte. You kind of get the bump for things that aren't usage based. The guy has a sub 13% usage with and without Harden. And they're just absurd rates that we've had. Like, you look at the Kawhi rates too. He's sub 13% usage all the time, Chris Dunn is. But he plays a gobsmack of minutes, 31, 32 minutes in these kind of spots. He's pulling a lot of ownership, and he should be. He's 4,500 there. He's 4,700 over on DK. So the guy I like a little bit more is Chris Dunn. The one I really don't like for FanDuel purposes, I mean, there are a lot of people that want to play a 6,300 Tari Eason over there. I am not a big fan of Tari Eason on FanDuel. We have Anthony Edwards you can play at small forward. We've got Jaden McDaniels you can play at small forward. We can trim a lot of ownership and get a lot of positive leverage in our lineups just by kind of avoiding the Tari Eason piece. Now, when you're looking over on DraftKings, he's 6,200. He's going to shoot threes. He gets a little bit of a bump for that, but he's gotten a crazy amount of steals lately. The guy averages 1.4 steals per game. He's had 2, 3, 2, 4 his last couple of games, and it's really inflated some of the box scores on FanDuel. If we put that as like 1.5, just kind of like make it a base right there, those FanDuel box scores do not look nearly as good as they should in some of these spots. So I think Tari Eason, the guy I'm probably the least in love with over there.
So for me, my least favorite piece of chalk over for FanDuel, Amen Thompson's very expensive. I get him in lineups still. He shows up in 25% of lineups. When he's pulling, 50% ownership, that's a big number. So I come about half the field on Amen Thompson over on FanDuel, and it's entirely due to that $8,800 price tag, which is just massive on him. So as far as other pay up guys on FanDuel, I prefer paying up for Ant. I prefer paying up for Kawhi, who's only $100 more expensive than Amen Thompson, and also same ownership on them. I know it's different positions, but still, you can only pay up for so many guys. So just looking at how my lineups are shaking out on FanDuel, of all the guys that are priced around Amen Thompson, relative to ownership, he appears to be the least appealing coming out of the Sims.
Agreed.
And then as far as a favorite piece of chalk on FanDuel, Eric, is there anybody that you're looking at as like a can't miss sort of player over on FanDuel amongst the 46+% owned guys?
I mean, Reed's just a little bit more expensive, but it doesn't matter. He's still the best value piece you've got over there. As long as we've got him in for just about 30 minutes, he's still a fantasy point per minute guy on FanDuel. Hard for me not to say that I don't like him for FanDuel purposes. I think he's the closest to a can't miss guy that we've got on both sites today. So that's the correct answer. I'll say this: center is kind of an interesting talking point for FanDuel purposes, because we've got Şengün. You can play him at power forward there, and on DraftKings we've been able to play him at power forward for a while now, but there's the Zubats piece, and he is pulling a lot of ownership over on FanDuel right now. We'll talk about him a little bit here on DraftKings too. We'll get to my nuke at the night, but I'm just curious what you think about the center position, where it's basically more than 50% of lineups that have Zubats or Embiid, and then nobody else is pulling any kind of ownership whatsoever.
So they've got I should say we've got a question from Larson. Larson 407 in Discord says, always appreciate the content. Center for FanDuel, single entry, go value. He says Zubat / Landale or pay up for Embiid. I mean, I still lean towards going to Şengün for single entry if I'm picking one guy. I know he's the most popular, so it's not like I'm deviating here at all, but I get him in 60% of lineups in the Sims. If you need to go a little bit cheaper, then my preference is to go to Zubats with no Harden today. You get Zubats at a pretty modest $6,500 price point. So for me, Şengün 1, if you can't afford him, then go down to Zubats.
Agreed.
That's the direction I like to go. Thank you for the question, Larson. By the way, while we're on FanDuel, we've got a couple of other questions here related to FanDuel. So let's answer these, and then we can do the nuke of the night. But our guy, Young Metro Boom, and he's asking us his normal question, Eric, which is, who are the best players at each position for FanDuel? So starting at point guard, who is your favorite point guard for FanDuel overall?
Reed Shepherd, mile.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Reed Shepherd at point guard as well. Shooting guard?
Chris Dunn, if we're going to go to the non-Shepherd stream.
Okay. I'm going to go with Ant here. I think that just given when we got that update on him, that could lower his ownership a little bit in terms of him being questionable for a lot of the day. And also we have projected for mid 30% ownership right now. So I'm going to go with Ant at shooting guard, Eric. What do you have at small forward?
Kawhi.
Yeah, Kawhi. Kawhi with a bullet. That's a pretty easy one for me. My favorite overall spend up option on the FanDuel side of things. And then at power forward, I'm going to go with Şengün, my second favorite pay up option. Who just happens to have power forward eligibility over on FanDuel. So go Şengün at power forward.
Yeah, definitely Şengün.
And then finally, center, I'll go with Zubats.
Yeah, it's Zubats, but that's a lot of ownership coming in on Zubats here. He's 6,500 on FanDuel. They just did a terrible job of pricing center. That's kind of what it is. But we'll say this. We have a lot of pretty pronounced chalk on FanDuel. There's one center that I think is pretty darn interesting if we're going to be running into, and I'm not just saying the crazy ceiling that is Joel Embiid. Embiid's playing a ton of minutes. We've kind of been banging the drum for like, all right, they're just going to play him. We'll play him while he's not hurt here. But 6,900 Gobert up against Jock Landale. Boy, that looks pretty darn good to me too. It's just a tournament pivot, way to lower some ownership. We have positive leverage coming in on him. I think for FanDuel purposes, center only. In lineups where I wouldn't be playing Şengün at center, which I'm assuming would be a majority of them looking through my lineups that I built on FanDuel, I like the idea of maybe boosting Gobert and getting to around the 20% number if I were playing, a handful of lineups.
All right, we are about halfway through the show. And by the way, if you guys want to sign up for any of the tools that we have here at Stokastic, link to sign up is down below in the YouTube description box. We also have our link join program. So if you guys want to get a free month of a single sport of your choosing, simply sign up for any of our affiliate partners through the link down below. For each one you sign up for, 1 free month. Stokastic Sims access to a single sport of your choosing. Eric, you want to do the nuke of the night or a couple more questions? I'll leave the ball in your hands here.
Yeah, we can get the questions after. Let's get the nuke out of the way.
All right, let's do it. I have a gut feeling we're going to have the same guy today, Eric. I just have a gut feeling about it. We'll see, though. You go ahead. You go ahead. I think we're going to have the same guy, though.
No, we're not. There's no chance that we are.
Okay.
Like,
if yours is like somebody really crazy, then we probably don't.
I mean, it's not real crazy, but it's like, it's obscure.
Okay. Mine's not that obscure. Go ahead. I guess we have different guys then.
Yeah. I look at the board today and we're going to have a lot of Reed Shepherd. We're going to have a lot of stuff like, I weirdly like playing Reed Shepherd a little bit more at point guard today, which is not typically the norm on these kind of slates. You brought up Amin Thompson, pretty expensive, both sites. 8,200 DK, still very doable. Don't get me wrong. Tyrese Maxey, 9,400, not a huge fan at that. Nemhard's priced up to 7,100. Cam Spencer doing whatever else here. But we've got ourselves kind of this weird situation with Ty Jerome getting the start right from the get-go. And we haven't talked about this, and I haven't gotten your opinions about what's going on with it there. But at 4K, he's pulling quite a bit of ownership. He's a great fantasy producer, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. But this is kind of eradicating where I thought people might end up going to like some Cedric Coward in our lives. The Grizzlies got completely shell-shocked by Minnesota. That game, I watched it with my folks on Saturday. It was just a beat down from top to bottom, pillar to post, no way around it. But one thing I like doing is finding like, if I'm going to play tons of chalk, if I'm going to find, a deviation point, I better really be able to make a case for like getting away from a piece of chalk here or there, or find some kind of a leverage aspect. This really isn't any of that, but I just find this to be a little strange to me that we have a guy like Cam Spencer coming off the bench creating, and we have a guy like, Cedric Coward who isn't pulling any ownership whatsoever. 25% ownership. There's no Morant. There is no rebounding really in sight on this Memphis team here. Jock Landale, they're going to need to have Cedric Coward out on the floor for a lot of minutes in any kind of a competitive spot. He's 5,400. The tags just kind of remain the same there. We have him at 26.5 minutes, and yet we have a ton of positive leverage in because the key thing, he's a great fantasy producer. 1.04 DraftKings points per minute, what we've got him in for here today. I think Cedric Coward is really going slept on this slate. I have him in half my lineups right now, 5,400. I don't need to have shooting guards sitting there waiting in the wings with Bones Highland. Unlikely piece. Cedric Coward, my nuke of the night.
So you got close there because you started talking. I was like, oh my God, are we actually going to have the... I'm going with Ty Jerome. I cannot believe he's not more popular. I thought he was going to be as popular as like the 40+% owned guys today. And it's not to say that Ty Jerome is, contrarian. He's 30% owned. We've got him, pretty positively leveraged here, but I'm getting well overweight to the field to him in the Sims, Eric. 4K, he's starting his first game back this year, coming off, a pretty significant injury, played 20 minutes. I presume his minutes only go up from here. I don't think they're going to go down. We might be getting 24 to 26 minutes out of Ty Jerome as the starter here with no Ja Morant. And we've got a long track record of Ty Jerome being a very good fantasy, but outside of the playoffs, that was a disaster. But in general, Ty Jerome, really good fantasy producer when he plays extended minutes in the regular season. So I thought we were gonna see Ty Jerome be like 50-60% owned on the slate. So once again, it's not to say that 30% is some contrarian option. I just thought that and I think he should be way more popular than he is. I'm going with Ty Jerome.
We're thinking about this exactly the same way. My main thing is that I think Ty Jerome could have played a little bit more. They did have him start every quarter. Like that was kind of the way that they wanted to run the rotations, kind of keep him going that direction. But I don't think it's outside of the realm that they want him to close. I mean, he went from not being projected anywhere to start. He gets the surprise start. They do that start thing right off the bat there, but I would say that kind of hints to me that in a competitive game environment, they might want him to close. He gets valued higher than a Cam Spencer at the moment. So we're thinking about it exactly the same way. I'm trying to find what I think is undervalued. I think Clippers spend ups like Kobe Sanders, if you want to play a little bit of him there, 3,800 both sites, like I'm fine with it. I'm fine with these other guys, but I think Memphis is going very slept on. And I think that's kind of the point I was trying to make, is that I like the idea of it's Santi Aldama out. It's John Conchar out. We got, a Q tag that was sitting on Jaren Jackson Jr. He'll be back for this one. So that's going to help them keep it hopefully a little bit more competitive. But I did bet Minnesota already. I thought there was a chance Jaren Jackson sat, but considering these guys aren't pulling any ownership, I'm with you. Jerome, Coward, Jaren Jackson Jr. even a little bit. Jock Landale's cheap on FanDuel, even though a little bit overowned. Like, there's a lot of ways to get Memphis in your life and get different on this slate.
Yeah, I'm overweight to the field to Triple J as well. He's sub 20% owned. I think it's a good team to be targeting. And yeah, just made official that Triple J will be available to play for today. So there we have it. Nukes of the nights for today. Let's see what else we got for questions. We have this is funny. JEW wants to know our thoughts on Ty Jerome. Minutes too low for 4K. Well, so I'll just say this. What do you think is, because we both just kind of said we like Ty Jerome. What do you think is the ceiling for his playing time?
25 minutes. Like, I think that's the ceiling. Like, we have him at 21 and change, but I'm saying that I think there's a chance he could get in the closing lineup. If there's like 2-3 minutes left and it's like, all right, we're still in this 3, 4, 5 point game, whatever it might be. If Cam Spencer isn't just smashing, I assume we get Ty Jerome closing. He's starting the game. He's somebody that they have equity in now. Actually, he was 6th man of the year last year, correct? Like he wasn't. Who was 6th man of the year last year? I know he was like 6th man du jour is what I called him last night on the program, but like Ty Jerome was awesome for the Cavs. We all watched it until the playoffs, as you brought up. Playoffs were disaster.
Peyton Pritchard won that like unanimous
by a mile, correct. But I'm just saying that like there's no question that somebody played themselves into some money this year, and that was Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome out of Virginia. By the way, that was one of the most ridiculous Final Fours I've ever attended in my life. Virginia had no business winning that semifinal game. Complete joke of a referee crew coming in there. And then they got to play Texas Tech and Jarrett Culver in the frickin' finals. That was a free pass.
Just because we're talking about Memphis here, and this is such an egregious spelling error, I feel like it has to be pointed out on the program here. KGDR spelled GG Jackson wrong. It's 2 letters, GG, and he spelled it GEEGEE.
Gee, Greg, that doesn't seem correct. GG, that doesn't seem correct. Wow.
How do you spell CNN? I want to know. Does he spell like SEA? How does he spell CNN? How do you spell NBC? Lots of tough ones out there. But yeah, it's a GG, like the letter G, then the letter G again.
Don't run into the letter K. Memphis, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. GG Jackson, is he somebody who is showing up in lineups for you fairly low owned today?
No. He is not one of these people that I was considering on the Memphis side. He is not. The suit is not black. Although I did think about some Vince Williams Jr. in my life. I might get down with some Vince Williams Jr. just because of what he can do from a fantasy point per minute rate. And again, if Ty Jerome doesn't close, which I think just kind of ends up being somewhat likely still, just if he's limited and such, I'm just saying that he could potentially have 25, 26 minutes as that ceiling. I think Vince Williams Jr. probably a guy they want on the floor who was great in a ball handling duty capacity without John Morant earlier in the year.
Yeah, if I am going, I don't have like a ton of any of the like cheaper Memphis role players, but if it's going to be one of them, I do think I don't really like Vince Williams either, though. Yeah, if I'm just going to be playing somebody who like the most contrarian Memphis guy who I'm overweight to the field to, and it's relative to a 3-game slate, but ownership in the teens on Jaren Jackson Jr., which you mentioned before. I think that's the more reasonable way to get contrarian with Memphis. Yeah. All right. Some more questions here.
Williams Jr. over the field for what it's worth. 15% of him. So go me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got 10% of him. It's just like how much do you want to keep for a guy?
Why is he a power forward? Can somebody explain that to me?
Just random position generator. He plays a bunch of positions. The power forward isn't one of them, and he has eligibility just at the power forward spot.
Oh, did you see this note from Rich too? Javon Small played quite a bit against Minnesota that game watching on Saturday. So let that be known. They're both an active Ty Jerome, maybe some more minutes that are potentially there. But yeah, they're gonna have minutes for KCP, Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams Jr., Cam Smith. They're not short on guards. So whatever they want to do with Ty Jerome, if it's limited, not like they're going to be able to do whatever they want. They have a million of those dudes.
So here's another pretty strong case for Ty Jerome tonight. He shows up a ton in the Sims, as is.
Yeah.
We have him projected for 19 and a half minutes. So at 19 and a half minutes, he shows up in a good amount of lineups in the Sims. What happens if Ty Jerome plays 24?
He smacks the slate. Again, that would be like 4 start of quarter stints if they want to do it that way. Or, again, if they want him to close, they can do that too. So there's only upside. I'm with you, completely with you. Like there's no downside to minutes outside of injury or crazy foul trouble. Cause you'd have to really go hack a shack on your own 10, 20 minutes as one Ty Jerome to potentially, I knock on wood, I cannot talk that into fruition considering I'm way overweight on this guy.
All right, let's get into the other questions here. Lots of them piling up, so we could get to these. Krebsy wants to know, what are our thoughts on Kobe Sanders for today? Kobe Sanders, who we've got projected fairly well, just under 30 minutes. He's not a very good fantasy producer, but he got somebody who's sub 4K, no James Harden tonight. You got him projected for nearly 30 minutes. So as far as Sanders, by the way, also small forward eligibility. So not the best position on the slate either. I think he's a very solid value option. Wouldn't be on a bigger slate, but for today, positional scarcity, the price point, the minutes, I think he's one of the better value options on the slate.
Yeah, and I really like the idea. Jordan Miller is just coming off the bench and going just scorched earth. I think he had 20 yesterday, went 3 for 4 from 3. He's been a sexy little beast himself. He's very expensive at 5K, but you know what that does on a small slate is it keeps the ownership down in an earlier round. I get a little bit worried that here's where they dust off Bogdanovic. He was active for last game, but they went to a deep rotation. They ended up playing 11 guys yesterday, but 2 of them because of blowout. You had Yannick and Kobe Brown that ended up playing. They were up 1 million on the Suns, and so they were able to kind of coast, keep Kawhi limited, do all the things they wanted to do there. But I mean, if they're going to keep Bogdanovic out of the rotation here, just save him up for the second leg of the back-to-back, that's going to be problematic. But I like the idea of mixing in a little bit of Jordan Miller in the event that Bogdanovic is just not in the rotation anymore.
How deep did they go?
Super deep, Greg.
So deep, they put our ass to sleep. All right, we got that question out of the way. Ice Cube. It was a good day. We've got here from Sally. Sal wants to know, would we fade Amen Thompson on both sides? So to be clear, I didn't say that it's an outright fade of Amen Thompson. It was just when we were talking about him on FanDuel, I said he's showing up in about 25% of lineups for me. It was when he's pulling 50% ownership. So it depends. People have different definitions for fades, but whatever you consider, him being in, 25% of FanDuel lineups at 50% ownership. I just thought he was a little bit too popular over on FanDuel. Different story over on DraftKings, where he's considerably cheaper and is also not as popular. So I think the ownership is totally fine on Amen Thompson on DraftKings. FanDuel is where I want to be underweight to him.
You said fading him. You're a liar. But,
for you, Amen Thompson takes on a DraftKings.
Yeah, he's 8,200 on DraftKings. Yeah. He's just fine. You're playing some of him over on FanDuel.com. Like, come on. Or on DraftKings, sorry. FanDuel's where he's expensive, and I probably don't want to get tangled up in too much there, but at 8,200, I currently have 28% of him, and I'm just fine with that.
We got a question from Robashua. He wants to know, over on FanDuel, do we like Jay Huff? Jay Huff, who has been confirmed as the starter, $5,100, too expensive for me. The times that I've liked Jay Huff, here's what happens with Huff. He plays well. His price goes up a little bit. People ride him. Then he has a couple bad games. People kind of get off the train. The times that I want to play Jay Huff is when the price starts to crater and people don't give a shit about him at all. And then he's like $3,800 with like 8% ownership or something like that. That's where I want to play Jay Huff. Not as much when he's 5,100 today.
Well, thanks for talking him into 5 threes and 5 blocks. Really appreciate your service here. Thanks, Greg.
Mighty Quinn wants to know, who is our favorite utility play? She has $5,800 to fill out the lineup with. All right, $5,800 for utility. Let's see, Eric, $5,800.
Meh. I mean, Matherin is fine, but don't love it.
Cedric Howard for me.
Cedric Howard. It's probably my guy. It's probably my dude.
Leaving a few $100s in salary on the table, not the end of the world for a 3-game slate. If you can use that salary to upgrade somebody else, go for it. But if not, Cedric Howard. That's your answer there, Mighty Quinn. Thank you very much for the question in Discord there. We got some super chats here waiting for us, so let's answer these. We've got one from Nicholas Barrett wants to know, can we rank the FanDuel Minnesota plays to build around? Sure. All right. So obviously this could have looked way different than what it looks like now.
Boy, is this rough.
All right, let's filter in the Sims that I have in front of me by Minnesota. All right, so it is going to be for me, top 3, Edwards 1, DiVincenzo 2, and then a contrarian option in Naz Reid 3rd.
Yeah, I'll do the contrarian Rudy Gobert third, even though Naz Reid knocked down everything in Memphis's eye hole on, I think he had 6 threes or something. It was completely ridiculous what we saw from Naz Reid on Saturday. 6 threes. I was right. Go me. Good
and
team.
Then who do you have? So you have a Gobert, you said, is contrarian.
Who? Yeah, and I had the same 1-2 as you.
Okay.
I had the same 1-2 as you. And then I just said, give me Gobert 3 as the deviation point. Because if I were playing more on FanDuel, I would be playing a lot of Gobert on FanDuel. Okay. Sadly, I would.
Fair enough. We've got Miami Mike's Nuke of the Nights. He's going with the aforementioned Naz Reid, and then he's also going with Tari Eason as his other nuke there. Yeah. So a couple of nukes from our guy Miami Mike. Corey Randall says, I know they aren't the same price on DraftKings, but I prefer Ty Jerome over Shepard if he starts. I do expect Ty. I'd be very surprised if Ty Jerome doesn't start today.
I would too. I'd be extremely surprised at this point. They've kind of let it be known. We'll say, do you have any TJ McConnell in your life? I just ran a lot of my lineups, and I just got a lot more TJ McConnell this time around.
FanDuel or DraftKings?
DraftKings.com. I just put the .com in for dramatic purposes. Sorry.
18%. So like nothing crazy though.
Yeah, no, that's much better. I'm going to try to get myself there because he doesn't play more than 17 minutes, but he also puts up a ridiculous fantasy point per minute rate. So real fun.
Vinny T says he just took down a Sunderland versus Burnley EPL showdown. All right. Shout out to you.
What?
Vinny. Says he would like us to incorporate EPL into the tools. All right. We'll take that into consideration. And then he says obligatory super chat for Ty Jerome. Go Hooge. All right.
Oh,
so
he's a Virginia guy. He's a
UVA guy. Super chat here. We got somebody from Virginia just backing his guy, Ty Jerome, who is also an excellent college player. I feel like in a different time, Ty Jerome would have been in the college for 7 years or something like that, like some of the players we're seeing now. But yeah, hey, shout out on the win. Love to see that, Vinny. Nice hit.
Dude, that was such a ridiculous team. So they lost. They were the first 1 seed to ever lose. And then that team comes back with like all of the same pieces. And again, they had no business winning that semifinal game. I can't remember. I think Michigan State played Texas Tech. I can't remember who Virginia played. I'm trying to find it here quick because I was at that game. I was like 10th row. It was in Minneapolis. Went back to go hang with my dad, my best friend, and boy, Virginia got lucky. They had no business winning that game.
I can't say I remember that at all.
DeAndre Hunter. Kyle Guy, that was the ridiculous bullshit play at the end of that game. Oh my God.
Don't remember any of it.
Auburn. It was against Auburn. They were down 61-57 with 7.7 seconds remaining. Guy scores a 3, and then 2 controversial non-calls by officials preceded Auburn being called for a foul with 1.5 seconds remaining. Oh yeah, I can remember just death and destruction in that building after that game. Oh my Lord.
Here is our updated projection on Jay Huff, who I should mention that before we got a FanDuel specific question, I don't think he looks great on FanDuel. DraftKings, where he's only $4,300, not necessarily the best play on the slate. He is way better looking on DraftKings than on FanDuel. So once again, FanDuel, where he's over 5K, you've got Jay Huff in for 23.5 fantasy points at center. It's a very thin projection. We got him optimal 5% of the time. So, pretty weak. He looks pretty solid on DK though. Sure does. All right. So if you guys weren't considering Jay Huff on DraftKings, does project pretty well for us. FanDuel, less so. And also not crazy ownership on DraftKings either. Mastermind Magruder, $4,200 or less for small forward on a DraftKings single entry. I think that's Kobe Sanders.
Yeah, got to be Kobe Sanders, which I'm getting
or
way
Jalen
more of
Wells.
him than
They're very interchangeable. One of the two, Kobe Sanders or Jalen Wells.
Yep, agreed.
Let's see what's next. Oh, that does it for all of the super chats. We do have some questions in Discord here, though. Truffles wants to know thoughts on Gobert tonight. So, Eric, I know you've talked a little bit about Gobert over the course of the show. What is it that you like about Gobert as a contrarian option?
Yeah, he's cheap on FanDuel. He's not pulling like any ownership. There's an opportunity against a front court that looks very, very different than it did at different points in the season. We have no Santi Aldama. We have no Brandon Clark. We have no Zach Edey. The opportunity for Rudy Gobert to just go completely ballistic. And, how many rebounds did he have on Saturday? It was 16 rebounds. I mean, this is the kind of shit that Rudy Gobert does in these matchups where there's not like a great, like Jock Landale shoots threes. He's fine as an NBA center, but like he's not good. And Rudy Gobert is just going to get eternal amounts of rebounds in these kind of spots. I think on FanDuel specifically, where not very popular there. DraftKings purposes, he was a point away from the double-double and maybe looking a little bit different last time around, but these are the spots where Rudy Gobert just smacks. I don't really know what else to say. It's just kind of a little bit of a Minnesota bias. Thank God he's 6,800 over on DraftKings, where I don't have to think about it all that much. Plus all these power forward centers we want to play. Jay Huff now in the mix, Alperen Şengün, Pascal Siakam, John Collins, the chalkiest of all the guys I just said. It's nice I don't have to go that direction if I don't want to, but on FanDuel, I really like the idea of Rudy Gobert at that price and ownership.
I can get behind him as a contrarian option. I don't have any issue with that either. We've got here from one of your other guys from the past. We got a Kelly Oubre question here from Richie D's. He's got a 2v2 for us for a DraftKings single entry. Interesting combos: Oubre and Dunn or Collins and Miller.
Probably Collins and Miller by quite a bit, just because there's one HIV play at the forefront of that one in the first two.
So the one thing that is kind of interesting there is I think that Miller's a pretty interesting contrarian play. I think Collins is a little bit overowned, but between the two, I'm gonna lean towards the Collins and Miller side.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say Kelly Oubre is HIV. He's beautiful. He's Tsunami Poppy, but no way Kelly Oubre on this slate for me. So once again, congrats to him on his 50 ball.
We've got a question here from Einstein. Any interest in Neesmith tonight? Do I have exposure to Neesmith?
Nope.
I'm rerunning everything right now. I don't have Neesmith lineups, Eric. I don't know if you do.
I don't. I really don't. I mean, Matherin off the bench, it's just such a cluster F now. Like, Jarris Walker's played really well too. Him on the bench, coming off the bench here too. It's just hard for me to imagine Aaron Neesmith blowing up this slate on me. Although I suppose he gets the Reed Shepherd defense, which maybe isn't the worst situation in life. But yeah, I can't imagine Aaron Neesmith on this slate for me.
Yeah, I mean, you were referencing what was the NBA Finals game where went totally nuclear last year? Was it Game 4 or Game 5 where he hit like a bazillion threes? Do you remember that?
Oh no, there were a couple of them that I mean, it's Showdown. I remember playing a ton of him and Matherin in a ton of spots, but yeah, there was the one game specifically where he had like 6-7 threes and everybody was losing their minds
in like 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was truly insanity, but Aaron Neesmith can do that from time to time. I'm hoping on a 3-game NBA DFS slate in February, he doesn't care nearly as much. That'd be good. That'd be good.
Let's see. We've got a question here. The real Gordon Ramsay, Eric, wants to know thoughts on Tsunami Poppy.
Tsunami Poppy. Yeah, I'm not playing him today. No chance. I rode that thing to the top, and then he nuke of the night. What the worst nuke of the night all year long was Kelly Oubre. So I will carry that badge, not with honor, with resentment and hostility towards Tsunami Poppy.
And then, oh my God, these questions just piling up. This is like 3 of the last 4 questions involve Oubre. Brad wants to know any Oubre with no Paul George. So I'm running one final run of the Sims here. My last run, I had him in, yeah, same. All right, just finished. I have 2% of Kelly Oubre. Not really.
0. He's not on this slate for me. Congratulations to him on his 50 ball yet again.
Yeah, not for me. JT Mac, favorite pay up in the 5-5-5 today. Eric, if you're playing a high dollar, smaller field contest today, who would be your favorite pay up option to go to? Şengün for me.
Şengün. Kawhi's close, but still not close enough.
Şengün. If you want a lower owned one and a potential pivot off of Şengün, Joel Embiid, $9,700, has about half the ownership of Şengün. I'm overweight to both of them. So if you want an alternative lower owned one, Embiid, but my answer is going to be Şengün there for you.
Dude, he's fine. Reed Shepherd's fine, but let's be serious. Reed Shepherd, it's defense by group, by Houston Rockets defense, not individual Reed Shepherd defense. Stop it.
Ankle breaker for DraftKings. Naz Reid and Joel Embiid, or Zubats and Ant. That for me is Naz Reid and Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Both are fine combinations, though.
Yeah. Zoo at 7K. And you know I'm a Zubats guy. My 100Ks are attached to Zubats. I love this man, but boy, is that a spicy meatball. FanDuel, much more Zubats laden for me. I'm not playing him a lot on DK.
This is CC or so I guess just like Korea, something like that. Okay. Shepherd, Jerome, Leonard. Okay, so this is a full lineup, which I guess he wants to know if we have any issues with. Shepherd, Jerome, Kawhi, Şengün, Reed, Miller, Huff, and then I assume that's Nembhard at the end. I don't like Nembhard very much for today.
I don't like Nembhard at 7,100 on DK. No, I do not.
So let's see, 7,100. Can you play Zubats in the flex? Because it seems like you've got Nembhard in the utility. Play Zubats in utility instead at 7K. Much better. Flip Nembhard to Zubats. Much better looking lineup. All right, and now one final question from Discord. I mean, unless like something else comes in, but this is the last one we have in here for us in Discord. If you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll answer this question. We'll find one prop bet from the prop tool to give out to you guys before we head out. Brad wants to know, Embiid in utility, switch to max. He was out. Don't worry. Embiid's playing. Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about it at all.
All right.
Don't
Let's find a bet for the
worry.
people before we head out here, Eric. I'm
do it.
going to make sure. Yeah. So I got the blend on here, 50% Stokastic projections, 50% market-based projections. Here is the number one bet on the board for us right now. It is over 5.5 assists. This is a pretty decent buy low spot, even though we both like Ty Jerome. 5.5 assists plus money on the over for comparison. Cam Spencer over 5.5 assists is plus 105 on BetMGM. It's minus 115 on Fanatics, minus 125 on FanDuel, minus 127 on DraftKings. Even just from a line shopping perspective, 5.5 plus money on the over. We got him projected for 6.5 assists. I like Cam Spencer over 5.5 assists. That looks pretty good.
It's a low number. It's a low number on Cam. I mean, his numbers without John Moran on the floor are redonkulous in the assist department.
So there's one nice looking over for you guys. Oh, here's another one on one of Eric's guys. Also one that was in the props video that I posted to Twitter earlier today. Cedric Coward over 1.5 threes. Get him at plus 146 over on FanDuel. Also pretty good line shopping. No other book
plus
hasn't better than plus
Caesars now.
Sorry, what's that?
Just moved to plus 150 on Caesars as we were talking about it.
Oh, okay, nice. So yeah, I get Cedric Coward over 1.5 threes. We got him projected for 1.8 today. So it's like a coin flip bet. They're getting plus money on. So Coward over 1.5 threes. We also got Cam Spencer over 5.5 assists. And guys, that is going to do it for us today. Tomorrow, I am going to be on the post lock show. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. We'll be reacting to any kind of late breaking news. We'll be looking for some bets. And it's a pretty big slate tomorrow as well, if I remember correctly. How many games do we have tomorrow, Eric?
10. I already started working on them. Started breaking them down this afternoon. We got 10, 8 on the main slate on DraftKings for what it's worth, but we got a 10 ball coming your way. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Lots of bets coming your way for tomorrow. It's going to be insane in the membrane, the amount of value you've got.
All right. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck. See you guys back here tomorrow.